In 1770, a farmer in Massachusetts and a merchant in Georgia lived in entirely different worlds. Separated by hundreds of miles of wilderness, they consumed different goods, practiced different local customs, and read different local news. There was no highway system, no broadcast network, and virtually no shared culture to bind them together. To convince these geographically scattered, distinct populations to unite and risk their lives against the British Empire required overcoming a massive psychological hurdle. Why would someone die for a stranger living a month's ride away? This abstract network of connections represents what scholar Benedict Anderson called the imagined community. It's the psychological architecture required to bind millions of strangers into a single identity. You will never physically meet the vast majority of your fellow citizens, yet you hold a shared image of your communion in your mind. This shared hallucination of nationhood did not spontaneously arise. It was manufactured by a very specific, rapidly expanding technological engine, the booming business of the printing press. Before the 1770s, political debate in the colonies was largely confined to elite assemblies and expensive, densely written books. The rapid distribution of cheap, lightweight pamphlets pulled these arguments out of aristocratic parlors and pushed them directly into noisy taverns, town squares, and ordinary households. Thomas Paine's Common Sense perfected this format. Published in 1776, it bypassed elite gatekeepers entirely. The title page attributes the work simply to an Englishman, and the text inside traded classical philosophy for plain, urgent language that any literate colonist could digest. The pamphlets sold hundreds of thousands of copies within months. For the first time, a blacksmith in Pennsylvania and a tailor in Virginia were sitting by the fire digesting the exact same arguments against monarchy at the exact same time. This synchronized reading experience constructed a common vocabulary. Paine's words framed British authority as a shared tyranny, while presenting self-governance and natural rights as the inevitable destiny of all 13 colonies. By giving diverse groups the same story to tell about themselves, Common Sense laid the psychological groundwork for revolution. It forged the initial bonds of a collective American consciousness. Following independence, newspapers shed their roles as neutral bulletin boards for maritime schedules and emerged as aggressive political actors. Editors cultivated fiercely partisan voices, intentionally steering public debate and mobilizing voters for emerging political factions. The founders understood exactly how potent this network of printers had become. To ensure the new republic survived, they enshrined protection explicitly barring Congress from abridging the freedom of the press. But this tolerance was quickly tested. By 1798, the Alien and Sedition Acts criminalized malicious writings, attempting to silence the critical machinery it just protected. The attempt failed. The press was already too deeply embedded in the daily routines of the public to be suppressed by legislation. Editors faced jail time, yet continued to publish from their cells, ultimately helping to vote Adams out of office. The survival of the partisan press through this crisis established a permanent reality. American media would function as an active, highly contested political weapon, capable of holding power accountable while advancing specific ideological agendas. By the 1830s, the application of steam power to rotary printing presses dramatically increased production speeds. This technological leap birthed the penny press, dropping the cost of a daily newspaper from 6 cents to just a single penny. Because they were essentially giving the paper away, publishers pivoted their economic model from elite subscriptions to volume advertising. To attract the massive crowds advertisers demanded, editors replaced dense political essays with sensational crime reports, juicy local gossip, and human interest stories. This 1-cent price point broke down strict economic barriers. Factory workers, newly arrived immigrants, and women, groups historically excluded from formal political discourse, could now afford to participate in the daily exchange of information. Buying a paper from a street corner newsboy became a daily urban ritual. Entire neighborhoods were reading about the exact same local fire, scandal, or political rally on the exact same morning. As the 19th century drew to a close, this machinery reached an industrial scale. Major metropolitan papers were printing millions of copies every week, aggressively capturing the attention of the swelling urban populations. The sheer volume of information flow synchronized the working class. It grouped millions of disconnected individuals navigating chaotic, anonymous cities into a cohesive audience sharing a unified civic reality. Over the course of a century, print media took a fractured, isolated colonial population and forged it into a highly integrated mass-market democratic society. This history embedded a dual nature into the DNA of American publishing. It acts as an essential platform for democratic participation, while operating concurrently as a fiercely competitive, profit-driven enterprise that relies heavily on sensationalism to survive. The media is not a passive mirror of culture. By deciding which stories get told, which voices are amplified, and how information is framed, the press acts as the heavy iron mold that shapes the nation's character. We see this exact tension today. Our ongoing arguments over profit-driven algorithms, media bias, and the rapid spread of viral misinformation are the direct descendants of the battles fought over partisan newspapers and penny tabloids. The glowing screens in our pockets operate at a speed and scale Benjamin Franklin could never have imagined, yet they serve the exact same function as those ink-stained pamphlets 250 years ago. They are the daily mechanisms deciding who we are.